Welcome to the No Name Podcast, sponsored by Texsource. Here's your host, Ryan Bolin and Mike Hoey.
All right, welcome again to another podcast with myself, Ryan, and Mike Hoey. We have a guest with us today, Robin Bumgardner. He's part of the Texsource team as well. He's one of our salesmen, and we'll be asking him some questions today and see what's going on. I think Mike's got a few questions from his production background side that he's now transitioned over from to the salesman's side. Well, not salesman's side, but you have questions too, Robin, about salesman's side of things.
I've got questions. He's got answers.
Yeah, but we're still working on a name. I do have a couple more ideas. We kind of have a couple of names that are off the wall, like shirt tails and stuff like that. But I was thinking a little more serious. People don't know us that well, but a lot of people will kind of know Texsource. Small shops, big shops, whatever. Just like people know NASDAR and other big name companies, but Texsource is another one of those. So I was thinking of somehow keeping it. Well, I guess your intro is going to be like I just heard. We have an intro, by the way, but like the intro that I just heard talks about Texsource. But I was thinking about a name of like, why the hell screen print, or what the hell screen printer, or like why or not. You get what I'm saying? Like,
so that's the name of the show.
I'm trying
what the hell screen printer?
I'm trying to make some kind of play on here, another episode with why the hell screen print. I don't know. It might be too long of a name, but instead of shirt tails, I'm trying to think of something catchy. You're asking a question. Oh, why am I screen printing? And then we just evolve into other crap.
Yeah. Why am I screen printing?
Like, why am I here? Am I stupid? Yeah. Is this crazy? But
yeah.
Or what the hell screen printer? Or
WTF?
Yeah.
Screen print?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shirt show, by the way, when I was posting the No Name podcast that we're going under, right now, it's already been taken, and it's been taken for a long time. So the shirt show, it's off the table. I'm pretty tore up about it.
Well, I'm not, because they must suck. Because they must suck.
No, I mean they have hundreds of episodes, and they have like a band opening up and stuff, like a rock band. Shirt show. Yeah, it's pretty. It's rad. We'll just put it that way.
No, it's not. Even saying that word, rad, is not, because we know that's a trigger word.
Yeah, I know. I said that on purpose because they've been doing this so long that when rad was cool, that's how old this has been around.
Well, that reminds me of like Ryanette, where he's like, "Oh, this is rad. This is this."
Yeah, the ShamWow guy, right? Are we allowed to call the Ryanette guy? Are we allowed to call him the ShamWow guy?
The ShamWow guy was Vince.
Yeah, but I mean they're brothers, right? I mean, to me, it's the same guy. Are we allowed to say that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But back to the name, we're
Robin, do you have a name? What do you think, the podcast? I mean,
I haven't thought about it.
We're getting nothing from him.
But I'm trying to think of why screen print. So I'm trying to think of a name of not shirt show. I mean, it was a good one. I mean, we've got some good ones. We keep rambling off, but trying to figure out what can catch somebody's eye and like, why am I screen printing? Oh, let me listen to this and maybe have some tips or something fun or whatever.
Yeah, man, I have a feeling we're gonna get like 6 months into this, and it's still gonna be called the No Name Screen Print Podcast.
Anyways, we'll circle back around to that towards the end. So again, guest today is Robin Bumgardner with the Texsource sales team. He helps out with our screen printing classes, a lot of other things. He's been in the industry. You explain yourself. Who are you?
Explain myself. Yeah.
Explain yourself.
Yeah, you just kind of showed up today, and now explain yourself, right?
Yeah.
So,
We threw you into the fire here.
Yeah. Well, I started screen printing a long time ago. Hand printing in my grandpa's shop at 13. I'm a lot older than that now, so getting ready to be 45. Did that for a long time, helped run a production shop, 2 autos, nothing too big. It's about the average what you see out there really as a salesperson. And I've been with Texsource for 22, 23 years. So
what was the transition? What made you go to the dark side so early in your career?
Dark side as far as,
Well, the dark side is the vendor side.
oh, yeah.
I made that up
Yeah.
back in the 80s, but
Well.
yeah, because I used to work in the dark side before, and I came to the light. Now I'm back on the dark side.
Okay.
He's used to the salesman selling him too much, and he don't like being sold. He wants to figure it out on his own.
Yeah.
So that's
well,
what he calls the dark side.
Yeah. I can remember my grandfather, back in the 80s and 90s, and he said, you know what you really need to do? You need to get into sales. That's where the money's at. I guess because he was spending too much money on supplies even
Yeah.
back then. So,
Boy, was he lying.
yeah. Yeah. I'm still waiting, either from screen printing or the sales of screen printing for that rich moment. Like, wow, I've got it made now. Still waiting.
The only way that'll happen is if you have if you make the one hit white.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. The elusive.
You're rich with knowledge, though. That's what he meant.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what all the poor people always say. I'm
rich with knowledge.
yeah, but at least I've got my health. That's what they normally say.
Yeah, you got out of the chemicals, right? The daily. Back then in the 80s, we had the terrible
The xylene.
Yeah, and what was the stuff that would look like battery acid that we used to dehaze with? That was just incredibly caustic.
Yeah, they still make that, the Rhino 2800, and I think Easy Way 415.
Oh
yeah.
Man. Yeah, some of that stuff you literally could hit wires up and jump a car with. It was some. You had to wear the nuclear biological suit, but we got some green things these days, which is a lot better.
It also causes cancer, so whatever. Who cares?
Well, I mean everything. You air, the water, so why not the screen print supplies too, right?
Yeah. Hey, I actually have some. I've scratched down some questions. I think that the listeners would want to know because, you're a guy that was on both sides. So when you go into a shop, it's different than someone that's never been there and done that.
Sure.
And so, out of your customer base, the ones that made it, what has been their X factor when you saw them start with nothing and now they're they're growing and they've grown into an auto, that transition? What's the X factor?
I think the biggest one, if I just had to throw a word out there, what's the catchword? It's adaptability. I think a lot of people learned how to adapt, especially through the pandemic. There were people that were doing, they were tied to elementary schools, high schools, Mrs. Jones, third grade field trip, needed shirts. And then, the basketball team needed a few jerseys, and that all kind of went away.
Yeah.
During those pandemic years, there was no schools, no events, no gatherings. So concert T-shirts were out, family reunions. These are some of the backbones of especially your mom and pop shops out there.
Yeah, probably took a lot of them down, and I don't know if business world is cruel when it comes to economics. Only the strong survive, and like you said, adapting.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see those guys doing during the pandemic to make up for some of these losses?
Well, they got creative. Most everybody was doing face mask at some point in time, and that's kind of gone by the wayside now. But a lot of them maybe they were farming out some embroidery. Now they've brought it in house and gotten themselves an embroidery machine. And the opposite has also been true. Some of the embroideries are now doing screen printing too. So it's bringing it in house, having some in house control of those things. They've reached out to different customer bases, because how are you going to survive if you had no customers? You have to reach out for customers. So that's what they did. They reached out to more corporate accounts and figured out a way to survive doing that.
Yeah, and I guess if you're just steaming along, you don't think about having half or more of your business taken away. So it's probably a good idea to be prudent and always be looking the next step ahead. Marketing for something like this.
Well, and we've always said it. Everybody within the business has always felt and thought that screen printing was a recession-proof business because T-shirts are cheap. Even when the economy's down, people can have a business and come up with some cash for some screen printed tees. And nobody ever thought that something like the pandemic could yank the rug out from under you, but it did. And I think people got a little smarter. the ones that did survive, and most of them survived. I think they've gotten a lot stronger by diversifying their account base. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket because of something like that. If it's just that market is taken out, then you've got more legs to stand on.
sure.
Ryan, do you have anything? You know this guy.
Yeah. Not at the moment. I don't have any questions. I'll pass.
That's a that's
That's a
what
firm pass.
well that's what they do when I go in to a lot of shops. They either feel like they are supposed to buy something right then, or they'll say, "Well, I just placed an order yesterday, and I don't have any questions for you."
Yeah,
So I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll see you next time."
yeah.
No
I mean,
questions.
So someone that wants to get in the business today, we have lots of people out there doing crafts that have the dreams of getting into something more than just selling stuff on Etsy that they make in their spare time. So if a new business is going, if you were getting into it for the first time, but having all the knowledge that you have, what line of garment embellishment would you get into? And what's some of the equipment that you would look at purchasing your first go around?
Yeah, I mean, I would at least get a 6-color manual press. I think screen printing. I think is going to be around for a long time. I don't think it's going anywhere. I see direct to garment out there. It still doesn't look as good as screen printing. It just doesn't. I think a lot of people like to jump in there and buy a direct to garment machine, but they're a little pricey. I could get some. I can get some decent screen printing equipment for what I could pay for a DTG machine.
Yeah,
Um, and some of them are even scrapping the DTG altogether and transitioning those machines into DTF, direct to film machines. So
yeah,
that I think those designs actually look a little bit better from what I've seen than the DTG. Now you still it's a heat press. You're making a heat press transfer with it. Um, Looks really cool. It's good for a few shirts. Still doesn't have the durability of
yeah.
a screen printed garment.
It's definitely that smaller order type things.
Sure.
I know that shops that typically will have a 2 or 3 dozen minimum, they used to send away people when they would come in and want 9 or 10 shirts. Now you can call up and get DTF done and sell them those shirts.
Yeah.
So that's definitely. But you would go for the screen printing and still not jump in the digital technology, right?
Yeah, I mean that. I think that's a good place to start. I think there are enough people out there that could get you some DTF transfers, or even if you wanted to go DTG, you could reach out and farm those products out through those people. You could still offer it without having to have it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
house. I think you're going to get a lot more um, credibility with being able to produce screen printed garments. I think they still last longer. Like I said, you're still dealing with a
the,
transfer.
and the time to produce them are a lot quicker, and the expense. You've got $3 worth of ink, I think, on DTG, just an ink cost. So
Mhm.
it still hasn't made it to mainstream America. Like that's how you're getting your shirts done.
So Robin said he starts with screen printing. Everybody that we see starts with heat press. Heat press. They're all vinyl, heat press, vinyl, and heat press.
Cricket
It,
heroes.
it never lasts. It never will sustain you. You always move to screen printing because if people don't want to spend the $15,000-$20,000 for a good DTG or even the direct to film machine. Your 10 grand when you can just go to online and get the vinyl sent to you without having to
Yeah,
buy DTF. So everybody I see starts in heat press because that's where a lot of people from our classes come from.
yeah.
But you always end up in screen printing. So
Yeah, because you can't sustain that because of the time and the expense. And when you first start doing it, all of a sudden somebody wants 100 shirts, and if you're a cricket hero, you're going to be up for 3 days in a row, and so time is money, and that's where screen printing just is always going to
volume.
be king.
heat press is good for your
Bowling team, yeah, the 4
Ju-
shirts you need.
just a little small. I mean, someone who doesn't is just hobbyist hanging out and they're on a free time on a weekend or at night, just wanting to do a couple shirts here and there. Heat press is going to be good, but if you're wanting to make it into a true business, you have to move to screen printing, or you can fumble around and direct to garment, but you, like Robin said, you're not going to get the quality.
And the price you got to charge is incredible when it comes to direct to garment. It's almost like it's a fixed cost, where at least in screen printing volume, your prices can go down and be competitive. You always have that $3 per shirt cost with direct to garment and the time. So you can't
And
get around it.
And the inks and all the crap getting clogged into the machines.
Yeah.
Constantly there's constant maintenance with direct to garment, constant maintenance, constant cleaning. Whereas screen printing, it's not. Vinyl's not, but vinyl sucks.
Yeah, vinyl sucks.
Well,
I'm gonna get somebody to vinyl cut you a shirt that says vinyl sucks.
I like vinyl. It's fun.
But you're gonna hold up a broken record or something, right? We got to make it a.
I'm sure I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth in a lot of these podcasts, but whatever.
we sell the vinyl.
Yeah, we sell vinyl.
You know what I mean? We do sell the vinyl. We don't. And I'll say this: you can look on Facebook Marketplace and you can see those little crickets.
Yeah.
They're for sale every day on there. You know,
Yeah.
so people do it, and they do a few monograms for their friends. You know, some of the ladies that are at home and stuff, and it just doesn't last. If it did, they wouldn't be selling it on, Facebook Marketplace so quickly. You know.
Yeah, and who is it? I think Mark Cuban says that if you have something to make money, but you don't have scalability, then that's a hobby, not a business.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Ryan's talking about when it comes to vinyl is there's no scalability in vinyl cut. You can do some cool things. I've seen people, stack 6 layers and do Homer Simpson and all kinds of cool stuff. So it's definitely cool and artsy, but it's not a scalable business.
Say it one more time. What does Mark Cuban say?
He says
Just for the listeners to listen.
Yeah, that he'll say to people on Shark Tank, if your business is not scalable, then it's just a hobby. That a business needs to be scalable. In other words, if somebody came to you and said, I need 1,000 of those Homer Simpson shirts, you're like, I can't do them. That's where you're still at a hobby level and not a true business.
It's the difference between a basement and a brick and mortar shop.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people will put a garage shop out there to keep the expenses down in the initial, and I'm all for that if that's how you transition. But just keep your prices so that when you do transition to a building and that expense, that you're not going to experience a big price jump.
I'm not knocking on the garages or the basement shops because we set up automatics in basement shops before. We've had to carry and somehow maneuver these big giant autos into someone's basement of their house, and it works, and they print and they make tons of money. So I'm not knocking it, but I was referencing if you're going to grow and stop playing around, the whole premise of this last little bit, vinyl sucks.
Vinyl sucks.
Well, you do see a lot of guys that do start in their basement. I think ultimately when they start making some money, their dream is to get out of that basement.
Yeah.
To have a shop somewhere, that's kind of the brick and mortar thing. And we've got a lot of customers that have made a good living starting out in their garage or in a building out back. And now they have a real, shop somewhere.
Yeah.
They were hand printing. And it's funny because most of them will carry that old manual press around with them, even if they move from a medium shop to a great big shop. I've got a guy, he started out doing it in his garage. He got 6 automatics in Charlotte, and he's still got that old piece of junk manual because for he and it's kind of a love affair.
Yeah.
He keeps it over in the corner and he looks at it. He's like, that's where I got my start, man.
Is it like an old Atlas roller skate wheel? One, what press did this guy start with?
I think it's an Antec.
It's an Antec,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, classic.
You know the drinking game where the beer's in the middle and you put the cards around it? Nobody knows that game? Where you pull a card and you...
Yeah, and eventually they all fall and you have to drink.
Yeah, you all stuff the beer the card into the beer can, and then when it finally cracks. Anyways, I was thinking about the all the different names of equipment manufacturers out there. There's crap ton. That'd be a good one to pull when you pull. What is it? What category? It's categories, but that's under tennis categories. You probably don't remember, but I can't remember either. Anyways, what you do in the drinking game is
Yeah.
if you pull that certain card, say whatever it is, that card is categories. You start the category by saying types of screen printing equipment. You wouldn't do it in a drinking game, but then I would say workhorse, and then you go, what's another one?
They're
Do
doing.
you have something we could drink and get it
I
started?
don't have any shots.
Oh, okay.
Alan, come
so
on.
it goes workhorse, and then you would say M&R, you'd say one. Then we keep
Atlas,
going
until
And
somebody's drinking, right?
and then if I don't get it right, then I got to drink.
Yeah. And
That was just saying how many different.
there's a ton out there.
Yeah,
For
there's-
sure. I mean, you see some of these
How do they know if you
older.
make one up?
Yeah. Well, it's
I would know.
yeah. It's got to be viable. Somebody's going to know.
It's Friday, so I might go play that game tonight.
Yeah, might have the tequila Friday with screen printing brands.
Might even feel like mixing tequila with some vodka. Keep
Yeah.
it. Ooh.
We always end up here on Friday, but that game, there's Long Beach is going on right now. I could see people doing that at Long Beach because the big screen printing trade show out there.
They're doing more than that out there.
Yeah. Well, it isn't the Vegas show, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I guess we'll wrap up. And we're still freaking no name. We don't know. But so what if we do? If I'm very dramatic and I say Y and the F screen print, but actually you put a big bleep. Like
Yeah.
the beep.
or Y and
and-
an F with like some stars or whatever.
Welcome to another podcast or welcome to another Y and the F or
You would say the word, and then we could broadcast use that tone that bleeps it out,
yeah, but
and put something over your mouth so it looks like
To blur it out like
Y
they
and F
do.
with screen printing by Texsource.
But we're allowed to curse because we've set this to, would we set it to like mature audiences only? Because we couldn't say shucky dern and keep the rating, and there's only 2 ratings. So I had to go with the, what's the rating? Does anybody, I forget. They had 2 words, and I knew the first one sounded like we were Mr. Rogers. So, and I read the guidelines, and I'm like, yeah, we're never going to make it past that. So, I think you could go with whatever podcast you want. Now, you may get some, mother writing into the show. My son was listening to your podcast. and-
Highly doubt it.
yeah,
Family friendly programming here.
family friendly podcast.
But we know screen printers. We've
Yes.
been in the shops, and I don't think any of them. There's no words they're not familiar with. We'll say it like
Yeah, screen printers, you're sort of just pinned for life. So
Mike didn't know what BDSM was, so
that. Hey, he's come from a different generation, man.
so then that would be
ASMR.
that would be incorrect. What Robin is saying.
I'm most dreadfully embarrassed.
All right, well, that's another podcast for us. Robin, our guest today. Thanks for joining us. We'll have more guests coming up soon. Again, we're still a little new with the podcast. We'll get you some better guests, some manufacturers in here, and we will
That's
see you next
hilarious.
time.
Peace, everybody.
Bye.